Hey guys. So, battle reports. Now, I am really tempted to end up throwing up some battle reports on this channel. Not big ones, you know. I'd like to put in some quality. I'm currently looking up how to do battle reports, and I've been watching a lot of mini wargamings and battle reports. I feel that they're probably the best battle reports going in terms of understanding gameplay. I like the fact that we can see individual dice rolls. We can see that tension on when the game hangs in the balance off of a single die and actually experience it with the other players. And I think that's one of the things that makes a really engaging battle report is when you're not watching it as though it was an aftermath, but you're there. That's what makes a really entertaining battle report. And I'm hoping to be able to find some way with the tools I have to actually do something similar. But there's something I noticed, and maybe it's just because of my background. Now, one of the things in my background is I play a lot of competitive fighters. This could be Street Fighter, could be Killer Instinct, Mortal Kombat. My personal favorite is Guilty Gear and BlazBlue. But the thing is with those, they also have a replay option. And with replays, I can study a few things. For instance, one of the things I actually really try and hammer out when I'm playing them is what combos am I dropping? As in, where am I losing damage potential? What were my options at any given point due to maybe spacing? Am I in a corner trap? Situational awareness? Where is it do I feel like I'm losing control in a given matchup? Where is it that the advantages of one character with this player become very prevalent over what I'm doing, etc., etc.? And one of the most useful ways for me to end up learning is through the replay option. That's what a battle report effectively is. It's watching over an old match. But the thing is I have never seen this how-to, and I would love to see it. I've actually posted it as a suggestion to a few content creators that I think really know the game, have given some amazing stuff. Scorpion. We got Fritz. We got Nick. I absolutely love his content, but I would love to end up seeing something a little bit beyond the learning curve where we're just discussing the units, but that's on him. He's got a few other things, and he's really good with this Project X. Side note, the thing that brought this on was I was actually watching his battle report between him and his son involving his new Tyranids. Is I was hoping to end up learning something. And the sad truth is I actually didn't. Now, this is on me. This has nothing to do with crate or anything against battle reports in general, but what I find is oftentimes I don't understand the strategies. I don't understand why does a player move this unit to this bit of cover and block his own line of sight to a unit he can clearly shoot at. And I don't understand this decision making behind it. I don't understand what are they doing as far as playing the game and breaking it down to the end goal. Now, oftentimes with objective-based games, particularly I think it's Maelstrom. Sorry, still getting caught up on the new rules and all that kind of stuff. Been a while, guys. I've been out of the loop. But when I'm trying to watch this and get a real good feel for how 7th edition is, what I find is I actually do not understand the choices being made on the battlefield. I don't understand. A good example, there's a video series, and if only I could remember what it is, Wind or something like that, Winds of Battle or something like that. I'll see if I can find it. But they do a tactica explaining basic concepts actual military strategy to the tabletop. I think it's OK or something like that. And I try and see these bits. You know, this is a kill zone. These are key pieces of terrain. Here are your mobility options. All this kind of stuff. And I try and look at it. I actually pause battle reports and look at it and going, okay, can I understand any of the decisions about to be made? Can I guess what my opponent is going to do? I believe this helps me in a game when trying to understand what my opponent might try to do to me, and then at least then I understand where the game's going to go and how to influence it. Well, not necessarily that far. I need to learn what he's going to do first before I start figuring out how to influence those decisions, but oftentimes the games are just play-by-plays, and I don't fully understand it. Another example of it, actually, I'll take from StarCraft. I'm a big fan of a lot of casters. Not players, casters. Day 9, Total Biscuit, two of my favorites. Husky StarCraft as well. I love watching them commentate on why a game is going this particular direction. What were the decisions that made or broke the game? And it gave me a better understanding of StarCraft, enough to play up to a higher league than I think I had any right to be if I just ended up doing basic practice. It let me understand the game a little further. And I don't see that kind of analysis in the 40K community. I think, and maybe you should try this out, if you guys think you have a really, really solid grasp on the game, do a standard, and you do replays. Do a standard replay, all right? Do your standard bat rep. Then do a follow-up bat rep of key points in the game. Describe the tactics that are happening. Why this choice over this choice? What were the choices that we didn't see play out but could have happened, and what effect they would have had on the game? Really get into the idea of, here's your options at the table. I think if you could give that kind of analysis, while it's not as clean cut as this is better in a list than this is how you write the best lists, this automatically counters this, and this, it could help develop the actual tabletop abilities of a lot of players like me who are just struggling, and we need to end up finding some kind of benchmark to at least understand, are we going in the right direction or are we not? Because as nice as it would be to end up using your win-loss for that, it's not always the case, because you have the random element of dice. Your opponent might change. His army list might change. His army might change. Right? There's too many variables to know whether you're going in the right direction or not. So some of us need that kind of touchstone to really get some... how do I put this? To leverage at least an educated guess as to how things are going. Not all of us are experts with a calculator in our own brain. I can calculate odds of dice, loose percentage. I can't give you precision percentage because, quite frankly, I'm not that quick. But even percentage of dice doesn't necessarily dictate who's going to win. Now, kill points, that's great, but when it comes down to objectives, can you read your opponent? Do you have situations that are happening? Maybe this is actually happening in a battle report, and one of the reasons I can't see is I'm not at that level, where I know that it's going to take you 2 turns to cap this objective with this unit. So I'm going to move this unit in place, and it's not going to move unless that unit tries to move to take the objective. So I realized that, and so the unit that I was initially going to take the objective in 2 turns now no longer moves, and my entire battle plan shifted. Well, on a battle report, it looks like that unit has just stayed still. but I don't notice that the only reason it hasn't taken that objective, or moved towards that objective, is because something in play has shifted. This person, his opponent, has made a decision that has influenced his decision making. There's battle reports I've seen where, good a piece of advice I was given: don't use your hammer unit against their hammer unit. It's use your big, strong unit, could be something like my Flyrant, and go after the weaker targets. Take them out, and use your anvil. Could be a tar pit unit, could be just a solid squad of Marines, whatever it is, right? And use that against it. Slow it down, and use that chance to rapidly take over the board. I have a lot of theories going in my head, but really no place to discuss them, and even when I'm discussing them, I oftentimes feel like I'm talking out of my ass. And I don't want to give bad advice in that regard. Tactics-wise, I have proofs in the pudding, and I have nothing to show. The only thing I can do is give you my thoughts on it. And one of the things I think that would heavily benefit this community is some real analysis of a bat rep. Let me see a battle report, and let's not take a look at the comments of any particular battle report. You're never going to end up seeing too much analysis of the gameplay. Everybody's watching it for entertainment purposes. That's great. But as a newer player, I would like to see something that lets me go, okay, so this was the strategy in mind. This is why they deployed the way they did. This is, like, I can counter deploy all day, but if I'm asked to deploy first, I have no idea on how not to end up putting myself in a position where I'm not royally screwed just because I got counter deployed. In fantasy, I know how to do this, but fantasy has a completely different deployment means. Trying to deploy everything on the table at once, it's a lot trickier. Maybe that's one of the reasons you need a higher maneuverability army than I'm used to. Most of the armies I've run into aren't high mobility, they're a solid gun line that reinforces itself. That's the meta I run into. A lot of ifs, ands, what have you. But I would love to end up writing into battle reports with Tyranid armies, with Necron armies, with Chaos armies, that, hell, even Eldar, where somebody's explained why this choice. I'll end on this note. Fritz oftentimes will talk about saving his jet bikes until turn 5. And on turn 5, he'll suddenly burst out and grab the objectives. I have not actually seen that in a battle report, though. I haven't seen anybody play to that. Or at least I don't notice it. It feels like things just evolve the way they did, and I can't predict how the game's going to go. If you can't predict how the game's going to go, you don't have a lot of foresight. You typically don't. Sometimes things go wild, no question, but more often than not, when you know what you're doing, in almost every other competitive game I've played, you know how things are going to go fairly early. Because you know how this stacks up against this, what's most likely to clash against this. And I think starting to have that intermediary, that bridge that lets us go from beginners throwing units at each other, and I believe this goes against tanks, so it's going against tanks. I think this mass kills infantry, so this should mass kill infantry. Taking it from that level to that higher echelon, that higher plateau. I think there's some room for that person who can take advantage of the bridge to explain how to get from point A to point B. Just my thoughts on the matter, though. Take care of yourselves.